The bus hummed along the quiet roads of Willow Creek, Ohio, and I felt my shoulders loosen for the first time in weeks. Home, 2 months away with my daughter Ava in Boston, had been lovely. But at 64, I craved the familiar creak of my front door, the faint smell of old books in my living room, the worn armchair where Henry used to sit, sipping his coffee and reading the morning paper. I smiled to myself, picturing it. That house, our house, held 30 years of memories. Henry, my husband, gone 5 years now, had been a careful accountant, always planning for the future. His pension and our savings kept me comfortable, even generous. Generous enough to help my son Nathan with his house payments, 2/3 of his mortgage, every month, for the last 4 years. I shifted in my seat, my knees aching from the long ride. A reminder of my age, I suppose. The driver caught my eye in the rearview mirror. "Here we are, ma'am," he said with a nod. I stood slowly, gripping my small-wheeled suitcase. Gone were the days of slinging a backpack over my shoulder. Practicality over pride, I told myself, chuckling softly. Willow Creek hadn't changed much in my absence. The same tidy houses lined Main Street, their porches adorned with rocking chairs. The corner market still had its faded sign, promising discounts for seniors every Wednesday. The park, where kids chased each other under the watchful eyes of their parents, looked as dusty as ever. I wondered if I'd see my granddaughter Mia there, her dark curls bouncing as she played. At 7, she was a quiet little thing, not like the boisterous kids of Nathan's new wife, Vanessa. The cab dropped me off at my little house on Maple Lane. Henry had bought it decades ago, when Nathan and Ava were just kids. "It's an investment in our future, Eleanor," he'd said, his eyes bright with hope. He'd be proud, I think, of how I've managed since he passed. The house greeted me with a familiar chill, a faint musty smell from being closed up too long. I opened the windows, letting the soft May air sweep through. The answering machine blinked with a single message, a reminder from my book club about our next meeting. Nothing from Nathan, though we'd spoken on the phone during my trip. I missed his voice. And I missed Mia even more. After unpacking, I stood in my kitchen, the quiet wrapping around me like a blanket. I was a librarian for 30 years, surrounded by stories and children's laughter. Retirement hadn't dulled my love for either, but now, alone in this big house, I felt a pull toward family. I decided to visit Nathan's place, just a short walk away. I wanted to see Mia's shy smile, hear her soft voice tell me about school. Nathan's house sat on a corner lot, a 2-story home with a small yard. Modest, but charming, with a porch swing Henry would have loved. But as I approached, I noticed the grass was overgrown, the flower beds choked with weeds. Nathan used to spend weekends tending that yard, whistling old tunes. Not anymore, it seemed. I knocked, my heart light with anticipation. Vanessa opened the door, her smile tight, like she wasn't expecting me. "Eleanor, you're back," she said, smoothing her sleek ponytail. She was 39, a house interior designer with a knack for making things look perfect. "On the surface, didn't know you were coming by today." "I thought I'd surprise you," I said, stepping inside. The living room was a mess, couch cushions askew, empty soda cans on the coffee table, the TV blaring some game show. Kids, Lucas and Isabel, sprawled on the sofa, eyes glued to their phones. Lucas, 15, barely looked up. Isabel, 12, gave me a quick wave before returning to her screen. "Where's Mia?" I asked, my eyes scanning the room. "Upstairs, probably," Vanessa said, her tone clipped. "Nathan's at work, selling cars, you know. He'll be back soon." I nodded, but something felt off. The air in the house was heavy, not with warmth, but with something unspoken. I thought of Mia, my sweet granddaughter, and wondered why her name hadn't come up in Vanessa's greeting. Why the house felt so divided. As I followed Vanessa to the kitchen, a faint sound reached me from upstairs, a small voice, hurried and anxious. Then Nathan's voice, sharp and loud, cut through the noise. "Mia, clean the house. This place is a disaster." My heart stopped. I gripped the strap of my bag, the warmth of coming home fading fast. Something was wrong. Very wrong. The sound of Nathan's voice lingered in my ears, sharp and unfamiliar. "Mia, clean the house. This place is a disaster." I stood frozen in the hallway, my hand still clutching the strap of my bag. Vanessa glanced at me, her smile faltering for just a moment before she recovered. "Oh, don't mind that," she said, waving a hand dismissively. Kids, you know. Always making a mess. Would you like some tea, Eleanor? I nodded, more out of habit than want, and followed her into the kitchen. But my mind wasn't on tea, it was on Mia, my little granddaughter, and the way Nathan's words had cut through the air. I'd never heard him speak like that, not to his daughter, not to anyone. Growing up, Nathan was a gentle boy. Always reading adventure books I'd bring home from the library, his eyes wide with dreams of far-off places. When had he become this man, shouting at a 7-year-old? The kitchen was a mix of modern and messy. A shiny new coffee maker sat on the counter, its sleek design out of place next to a pile of dirty dishes in the sink. A fancy blender, still in its box, was tucked in a corner. Vanessa, ever the interior designer, had clearly put her touch on the space. New cabinets, a trendy backsplash, but it felt more like a showroom than a home. I sat at the table, my eyes drifting to the living room where Lucas and Isabel were still glued to their screens. Lucas, 15, had earbuds in, his thumbs flying over his phone. Isabel, 12, was giggling at something on her tablet. Her sneakers kicked off carelessly on the floor. "How's Ava doing in Boston?" Vanessa asked, setting a cup of tea in front of me. Her voice was polite, but her eyes darted toward the stairs, like she was waiting for something. "Ava's thriving," I said, forcing a smile. "Her art gallery's keeping her busy. Boston's lively, but it's a bit much for me these days." I paused, stirring my tea. "How's Mia doing at school?" Vanessa's face tightened, just for a second. "Oh, fine," she said, shrugging. "Her teacher says she's quiet. Too quiet, maybe. Doesn't play much with the other kids. We're thinking about a counselor, you know, to help her open up." I sipped my tea, the warmth doing little to ease the chill in my chest. "Maybe she just needs a little more attention at home," I said carefully. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. "We give her plenty, Eleanor. But we've got 3 kids, you know? Lucas is at that tricky age, and Isabel's got dance recitals coming up. It's a lot to juggle." I nodded, but her words left a sour taste. 3 kids. She said it like Mia was just one of many, not Nathan's own daughter. I'd noticed it before, the way Vanessa drew a line between her children Lucas and Isabel. Mia, like Mia was an afterthought. Before I could say more, Isabel bounded into the kitchen, her ponytail swinging. "Grandma Eleanor," she said, chewing gum. "Did you bring us anything from Boston?" I chuckled, used her bluntness. Vanessa's kids always saw me as a gift dispenser. "Not this time, sweetheart," I said, patting her hand. "But I'll bring something next visit, I promise." Isabel pouted but didn't push. "Where's Mia?" I asked again, glancing toward the stairs. "Upstairs, doing chores," Vanessa said quickly, turning to rinse a glass. "She's got a spelling test tomorrow." "Chores, at 7. I frowned, but held my tongue. Every family had their own way, I told myself. Still, I couldn't shake the unease creeping in. "Can I go say hello?" I asked. Standing. Vanessa hesitated. "She's busy. Better wait till dinner. She's got to focus, you know." Something in her tone made my stomach knot. Mia was a bright girl, always reading picture books I'd given her, her little brow furrowed as she sounded out words. Since when did she need to be cloistered away for a spelling test? I sat back down, my fingers tapping the table. We moved to the living room, where Vanessa fussed over straightening the throw pillows. "Sorry about the mess," she said, laughing nervously. "The kids have been wild today." She shot Lucas a look. "Put your shoes away, Lucas." He rolled his eyes but obeyed, tossing his sneakers into a corner. I noticed a new photo on the mantel, a glossy picture of Vanessa, Nathan, Lucas, and Isabel at a beach resort, all grins and sunglasses. "Lovely trip," I said, nodding. At the photo, "When was this?" Vanessa's smile stiffened. "Oh, March. Just a quick spring break getaway. Got a great deal." I nodded, but my mind churned. In March, Nathan had called me, his voice strained, asking for an extra $1,000 for roof repairs. I'd wired the money without question. Roof repairs. Or a beach vacation. I scanned the mantel again. No photos of Mia. "Was MIA with you?" I asked, keeping my voice light. "She stayed with my mom," Vanessa said, avoiding my eyes. "She was feeling under the weather. Didn't want her getting worse." I bit my lip, swallowing the words that wanted to spill out. Didn't want to pay for another plane ticket. More like, at that moment, soft footsteps pattered down the stairs. Mia appeared, her dark curls tied back in a messy ponytail, her hands clutching a dust rag. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. "Grandma," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the TV. "Mia, I told you to finish upstairs," Vanessa said sharply. Mia froze, her shoulders hunching. I stood quickly, crossing the room to her. "Come here, sweetheart," I said, pulling her into a hug. She was so small, her arms trembling as they wrapped around me. "I missed you so much." "I missed you too," she mumbled into my sweater. I pulled back, brushing a curl from her face. She'd grown a little, but her eyes, those big, brown eyes, looked tired. Not the kind of tired a should be. "Look what I brought you," I said, reaching into my bag for a small gift, a bookmark, shaped like a butterfly, its wings painted in soft blues and purples. "For your books." Mia's face brightened, her fingers tracing the butterfly. "It's so pretty," she whispered. "Thank you, Grandma." "Mia, back upstairs," Vanessa cut in, her voice firm. "You've got work to do." Mia's smile faded, and she nodded, clutching the bookmark to her chest. "I'm almost done, Mommy," she said quietly. "Almost isn't done," Vanessa snapped. I watched Mia's face close off, like a light switching out. She turned and shuffled back toward the stairs, her steps heavy. I sat back down, my heart pounding. Something was wrong here, terribly wrong. Vanessa busied herself in the kitchen, humming as if nothing had happened. Lucas and Isabel hadn't even looked up from their screens. The TV blared on, filling the silence. A half hour later, the front door swung open, and Nathan walked in, still in his work blazer, his tie loosened. "Hey Mom," he said, his face breaking into a grin when he saw me. He hugged me, smelling of cologne and car polish. "Why didn't you tell me you were coming?" "Thought I'd surprise you," I said, forcing a smile. "How's the car business?" "Booming," he said, dropping into a chair. "Got a big sale today. Things are looking up." He glanced at Vanessa, who gave him a quick nod. "Dinner almost ready, hun." 10 minutes, Vanessa called from the kitchen. I noticed Mia standing quietly by the stairs. Her dust rag gone, but her hands still fidgeting. Nathan didn't even look at her. "Daddy," she said softly, stepping forward. "Grandma gave me a butterfly bookmark." Nathan glanced at her, his smile brief. "That's nice, kiddo," he said, already turning back to Lucas, who was showing him something on his phone. "What's this, Lucas?" "New game level." Mia's shoulders slumped, and she retreated to the corner of the room. My chest ached, for her. At dinner, the family dynamic became painfully clear. Nathan and Vanessa chatted about work, his sales, her latest design project. Lucas and Isabel interrupted with stories about school and friends. Mia sat silently, pushing peas around her plate, her eyes downcast. No one asked her about her day. No one noticed her at all. "How's school, Mia?" I asked, breaking the chatter. Everyone paused, like they'd forgotten she was there. "She's struggling with math," Nathan said, answering for her. "Her teacher says she needs to work harder." "I checked her homework last week," I said, frowning. "It was all correct." Vanessa snorted softly. "Well, she got a C on her last quiz." "It was a B," Mia whispered, her voice barely audible. "I only missed 2 questions." "Don't talk back," Nathan said, his tone sharp. Isabel smirked, nudging Lucas under the table. I gripped my fork, my knuckles white. This wasn't the Nathan I raised. Henry and I had taught our kids kindness, fairness. We never raised our voices, even when they deserved it. I looked at Mia, her head bowed, and something inside me shifted. This wasn't just a messy house or a busy family. This was something darker. After dinner, I lingered, hoping to talk to Mia alone. But Vanessa ushered her upstairs to finish her chores. Nathan offered me a glass of wine, his charm back in place. "How's the house, Mom? Must feel good to be home." "It does," I said, my voice steady. "But I'm worried about Mia. She seems overlooked." Nathan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "She's fine, Mom. Just quiet. You know how kids are." I didn't push, not then. But as I walked home under the soft glow of streetlights, my mind raced. The new appliances, the beach trip, the way Mia shrank under Nathan's words, it all added up to something I couldn't ignore. Henry's voice echoed in my head, calm and clear, the way it always did when I faced a hard truth. "Do what's right, Eleanor. You'll know it when you see it." I didn't have all the pieces yet, but I knew one thing for sure. My granddaughter was hurting, and I wasn't going to let it go on. The walk home that night felt longer than usual. Willow Creek's streets were quiet, the glow of porch lights casting soft shadows, but my mind was anything but calm. Nathan's voice echoed in my head, sharp and cold. Mia, clean the house. The way Mia's little shoulders had slumped, her eyes fixed on the floor. It wasn't right. None of it was. The fancy coffee maker, the beach trip photo without Mia, the way Vanessa snapped it hurt, all churned in my chest like a storm gathering strength. I sat in Henry's old armchair, the one he loved for thinking through tough decisions, and whispered to the empty room. What would you do, Henry? Where do I even start? The answer didn't come right away, but it started to take shape over the next few days. I visited Nathan's house twice more, unannounced, hoping to see Mia. Each time, I noticed the same pattern. Mia was always busy dusting shelves, folding laundry, scrubbing dishes while Lucas and Isabel lounged with their gadgets. Vanessa brushed it off as teaching responsibility, but I saw the truth in Mia's tired eyes. She wasn't learning responsibility, she was carrying a weight no 7-year-old should bear. I started paying closer attention to Nathan and Vanessa's life. The new SUV in their driveway, the designer handbag Vanessa carried, the expensive sneakers Lucas wore, it didn't add up. Nathan's car sales job paid well enough, and Vanessa's interior design work brought in extra, but not enough for this kind of lifestyle. Not when I was covering 2/3 of their mortgage every month. I'd been sending those payments since Nathan lost his last job 4 years ago, a temporary fix until he got back on his feet. He'd promised to repay me, but I never pressed. Henry and I had saved enough for me to live comfortably. I was happy to help my son, or so I thought. One morning, I decided to dig deeper. I pulled out my financial files, the ones Henry had taught me to keep organized. Bank statements, mortgage agreements, everything tied to Nathan's house. I called my old friend Clara, a retired bank manager who'd helped Henry with our investments. Clara, I said over coffee at her kitchen table, something's not right with Nathan's finances. Can you look into it for me? Quietly, Clara raised an eyebrow but nodded. Give me a couple of days, Eleanor. I'll see what I can find. 2 days later, she called me back, her voice low and serious. Eleanor, you need to come over. Now. I drove to Clara's house, my heart thudding. She sat me down and slid a folder across the table. I checked the records on Nathan's house. She said, "You're listed as a co-payer on the mortgage, like you knew. But 8 months ago, Nathan took out a second loan against the house, a home equity loan, $50,000. And, Eleanor." She paused, her eyes meeting mine. "Your signature's on the paperwork." I stared at her, the words sinking in like stones. My signature, Clara, I never signed anything like that. I didn't even know about a second loan. She nodded grimly. I figured. The signature looks close to yours, but it's not perfect. I'd bet my last dollar it's forged. The room spun. Nathan, my son, had faked my signature. He'd used my name, my trust, to borrow money I knew nothing about. $50,000. For what? That SUV, Vanessa's handbags, their spring break trip. I thought of Mia, scrubbing dishes while Lucas and Isabel laughed, and my hands shook. What do I do, Clara? I whispered. First you need a lawyer, she said, and you need to decide how far you're willing to go. That night, I barely slept. Henry's voice came to me again, steady as ever. Do what's right, Eleanor. I knew what was right. Mia deserved better than a home where she was treated like a servant, and I deserved better than a son who'd betray me. The next morning, I called Nathan's house. I'm coming over, I said, my voice firm. We need to talk. When I arrived, Vanessa was at work, and Lucas and Isabel were out with friends. Nathan was home, his day off, and Mia was upstairs, tidying her room. He said. The house was quieter than usual, but the tension was thick. Nathan sat at the kitchen table, sipping coffee, his smile uneasy. What's up, Mom? You sounded serious on the phone. I set my bag down, my hands steady despite the storm inside. Nathan, I know about the second loan, I said, watching his face, the $50,000. And I know you forged my signature. His coffee cup froze halfway to his mouth. His eyes widened, just for a second, before he forced a laugh. What? Mom, that's crazy. I didn't. Don't lie to me. I cut in, my voice low but sharp. I've seen the paperwork. My name's on it, but I never signed it. You did this behind my back. Nathan's face changed, the charm slipping away. He set the cup down, his jaw tight. Okay, Fine, he said, leaning back. I took the loan, but I didn't forge anything. You were in Boston, so I signed for you. It was just easier. I was going to tell you. Easier, I repeated, my voice rising, despite myself. You used my name, Nathan. You lied to me. What was the money for? That new car. Your beach trip. While I'm paying your mortgage. He looked away, his fingers tapping the table. We had debts, Mom. Credit cards, Vanessa's business loans. The kids needed things, school fees, clothes. It wasn't some big scam. We're trying to keep things together. Keep things together, I said, standing now. By making Mia clean the house like a maid. By letting Lucas and Isabel bully her. I heard you yell at her, Nathan. I saw her flinch. That's not keeping things together. That's breaking her. Nathan's face reddened. You're blowing this out of proportion. Mia's fine. She's just helping out. Kids need to learn responsibility. Responsibility, I snapped. She's 7, Nathan. She's not your servant. Lucas and Isabel don't lift a finger, but Mia's scrubbing dishes? And you're spending my money on vacations and gadgets while she wears clothes that don't fit. He stood, his chair scraping the floor. You don't get it, Mom. Vanessa's kids had a rough time after her divorce. They need extra attention. Mia's, she's easier. She doesn't complain. She doesn't complain because she's scared, I said, my voice trembling. She thinks she has to earn her place in this house. Do you even see her, Nathan? Your own daughter. He turned away, running a hand through his hair. You're making me out to be some monster. I love Mia. I love all my kids. Then act like it, I said, because right now, you're failing her. And I'm done enabling it. I'm stopping the mortgage payments. From next month, you're on your own. Nathan froze, his eyes snapping, back to me. What? Mom, you can't do that. We can't afford the full payments. We'll lose the house. Then you'll have to figure it out, I said, my voice steady now. Sell the car. Cut back on vacations. Live like people who don't have someone else paying their way. You're serious? He said, his voice low, almost a growl. After everything I've been through, after Dad died, I've been there for you, Mom. I looked at him, my son, and felt a pang of grief for the boy he used to be. You visited me once a month, Nathan, I said softly, and I've been carrying your family for years. That's not being there, that's taking. He stared at me, his face a mix of anger and disbelief. You're punishing me. Over Mia. Over alone. This is ridiculous. It's not punishment, I said. It's what's right. For Mia. For me. Before he could answer, the front door opened, and Vanessa walked in, her heels clicking on the hardwood. Eleanor, she said, her smile tight. I didn't know you were here. Eleanor's got some issues with how we're raising Mia, Nathan said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. And she's cutting us off. Vanessa's eyes widened, but she recovered quickly, her designer smile back in place. Eleanor, let's talk about this. I'm sure we can clear things up. Mia's happy, healthy, we're just teaching her to pitch in. Pitch in, I said, turning to her. She's doing chores while Lucas and Isabel play games. She's scared to speak up. That's not a happy child, Vanessa. Vanessa's smile faltered. You're misunderstanding. We're a busy family. Lucas has soccer. Isabel's in dance. Mia's, she's quieter. She likes helping. She doesn't like it, I said, my voice firm. She's afraid not to, and I'm not going to stand by while you use my money to spoil your kids and neglect my granddaughter. Vanessa's face hardened. Eleanor, we respect you, but this is our family. We decide how to raise our children. Not with my money, I said. Not anymore. There was a heavy silence. Vanessa glanced at Nathan, who shook his head slightly, like they were sharing a secret. Maybe we're all a bit heated, Vanessa said, her voice softening. Why don't we calm down? Eleanor, you love Mia. Maybe she could stay with you for a while. Just until things settle down here. It'd be easier for everyone. I stared at her, the words sinking in. They were offering to let Mia go, not out of care, but to manipulate me, to keep me tethered, maybe even to keep the money flowing. You'd give up Mia, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. It's not giving up, Vanessa said quickly. It's what's best. For her, she'd have your full attention. You'd love that, right? I looked from her to Nathan, their faces a mix of calculation and desperation. And in that moment, I saw it clearly. They didn't want Mia. Not really. She was a burden to them. a reminder of Nathan's past, a child who didn't fit their polished life. I'll think about it, I said, picking up my bag. But the payments stop. That's final. Nathan's face darkened. You're making a mistake, Mom. You'll regret this. I met his eyes, my heart heavy but resolute. No, Nathan, I won't. As I walked out, I heard Mia's soft footsteps on the stairs. She stood at the top, clutching her butterfly bookmark, her eyes wide and fearful. Grandma, she whispered, I'll be back, sweetheart, I said, forcing a smile. I promise. She nodded, but her eyes followed me as I left, like she was afraid I'd vanish. On the way home, I thought of Henry, his steady voice guiding me. Do what's right. I didn't know exactly what came next, but I knew one thing. Mia needed me, and I was going to fight for her. No matter what it cost. The days after that confrontation felt heavy, like a storm had passed but left the air thick with tension. Nathan's words, "You'll regret this," Mom, rang in my ears, but they didn't shake me. Not anymore. I'd seen too much. Mia's frightened eyes, the forged signature. The way Vanessa and Nathan treated my granddaughter like she didn't belong. Henry always said, love isn't just giving. Eleanor, standing firm for what's right. And for the first time in years, I knew exactly what was right. I didn't waste time. The next morning, I called Clara again. I need a lawyer, someone good, I said. I'm not just stopping the payments. I want Mia safe. With me, Clara didn't hesitate. I know just the person. Thomas Reed, semi-retired, but sharp as ever. He handled my estate after my husband passed. I'll set up a meeting. 2 days later, I sat in Thomas's small office downtown, a cozy space filled with law books and family photos. At 70, he had a gentle smile but eyes that missed nothing. I laid out everything. The mortgage payments, the forged loan, Mia's chores, Nathan's yelling, Vanessa's coldness. Thomas listened, jotting notes, his brow furrowed. When I finished, he leaned back. Eleanor, you've got a strong case for temporary guardianship, he said. The environment you've described isn't healthy for a child. If Nathan and Vanessa agree, it's straightforward. If they fight it, well, we'll need evidence. Witnesses, school records, maybe a counselor's report. Will it hurt Mia? I asked, my voice catching. Dragging her through this. Thomas's eyes softened. We'll keep her out of it as much as we can. The court will prioritize her well-being. You just focus on being there for her. Nodded, my resolve hardening. That afternoon, I went back to Nathan's house, unannounced. Vanessa opened the door, her face tightening. Eleanor, she said, forcing a smile. Twice in 1 week. 2, what do we owe the pleasure? I want to talk about Mia, I said, stepping inside. Nathan was in the living room, scrolling on his phone. Mia was nowhere in sight. Where is she? Upstairs, reading, Vanessa said, too quickly. She's got homework. I didn't believe her, but I let it go. I've thought about your offer, I said, looking between them. Mia staying with me. I'm willing to take her, but I want it legal, temporary guardianship, so I can make decisions for her school, her health. Nathan's head snapped up. Guardianship. Mom, that's extreme. She's our daughter. Then treat her like it, I said, my voice steady. I've seen how she lives here. Chores all day, no attention, Lucas and Isabel picking on her. She deserves better. Vanessa crossed her arms. Eleanor, you're blowing this out of proportion. Mia's fine, she's just quiet. She's not fine, I said. She's scared, and I'm not asking. I'm telling you. Either you agree to guardianship, or I'll go to court. And I'll bring up the forged loan. Nathan. Nathan's face paled. Vanessa shot him a look. Her lips pressed tight. You wouldn't, Nathan said, standing. You'd drag your own son through that. For Mia, yes, I said, meeting his eyes. I would. The silence was heavy, broken only by the faint hum of the TV. Finally, Vanessa sighed, her shoulders slumping. Fine. If you think it's best for Mia, we won't fight it, but it's temporary, Eleanor. And we still get to see her. Of course, I said, though I didn't trust their motives. I'd never keep her from you. Thomas drew up the papers quickly. A week later, Nathan and Vanessa signed, their faces grim. Mia moved in with me that weekend, her belongings fitting into one small suitcase and a backpack. It broke my heart, how little she had. I'd prepared Ava's old room for her bright yellow walls, a new bed with a quilt I'd sewn, a small desk with art supplies. I'd even added a bookshelf. stocked with picture books and a few chapter books for when she was ready. When Mia saw the room, her eyes widened. "This is for me," she whispered, her fingers brushing the quilt. "All yours, sweetheart," I said, kneeling beside her. "You can make it your own. Paint the walls, hang pictures, anything you want." She threw her arms around me, her little body trembling. "Thank you, Grandma," she mumbled into my shoulder. Those first days weren't easy. Mia was quiet, tiptoeing around like she was afraid to make a mess. She woke up crying some nights, calling for Nathan. I'd sit by her bed, stroking her hair, telling her stories about Henry and the library until she drifted back to sleep. But slowly, she started to change. One morning, I caught her humming while she colored at the desk, a soft tune I didn't recognize. Another day, she asked if we could go to the park. Her smile, shy but real, felt like a small miracle. I enrolled her in an art class at the community center, knowing she loved to draw. Her teacher, Miss Emily, called me after the first week. "Mia's got a gift," she said. "Her sketches are so detailed for her age." She drew a bird yesterday, and it looked like it could fly off the page. I smiled, picturing it. "Does she seem happy?" I asked. "She's opening up," Emily said. "Give her time. She's got a lot of light in her." Eleanor. Time, I could give her. Love, too. But I knew Mia's future needed more than that. One afternoon, I met Thomas again, this time about my will. "I want to change it," I said, spreading my files on his desk. "Everything, the house, my savings. Henry's investments, I wanted to go to MIA, in a trust, until she's old enough." Thomas nodded, his pen moving quickly. "And your children? Nathan and Ava." "Ava gets my mother's pearl earrings," I said. "They mean something to her. Nathan, he gets Henry's scarf, the one he wore every winter. The rest is for Mia." "You're sure?" Thomas asked, his eyes kind but probing. "Nathan could contest this." "Let him try," I said, my voice firm. "I've got you, don't I?" He chuckled. "You do. I'll make it airtight." The will was signed, sealed, and stored in Thomas's safe. I felt a weight lift, knowing Mia's future was secure. But Nathan didn't take it well. He showed up at my house one evening, unannounced, his face stormy. "I saw the lawyer's letter," he said, holding up a copy of the will notice. "You're leaving everything to Mia. What about me, Mom? I'm your son." I poured us tea, keeping my hands steady. "You are," I said, sitting across from him. "But Mia needs this more. She's got no one else looking out for her. Nathan, you've made your choices." "Choices," he snapped, slamming the paper down. "Like working my tail off to keep a family together. Like dealing with Vanessa's kids, who hate me half the time. And now you're punishing me for it." "I'm not punishing you," I said, my voice calm. "I'm protecting Mia. You forged my signature, Nathan. You used my money to buy things you didn't need while Mia went without. You let her live, like she's invisible." He stood, pacing the kitchen. "You're blowing this out of proportion. Mia's fine. She's with you now, isn't she? Why do you have to take everything?" "Because love isn't just giving," I said, echoing Henry's words. "It's doing what's right. And this is right." Nathan's face twisted, a mix of anger and hurt. "You've always favored Ava," he said, his voice low. "And now Mia's your new favorite." "I'm nothing to you." "That's not true," I said, my heart aching. "I love you, Nathan. But love doesn't mean ignoring what you've done. You can still be Mia's father. Be there for her. Show her you care." He grabbed his jacket, his eyes cold. "You'll see, Mom. You're making a mistake. I'll fight this." The door slammed behind him, and I sat still, the tea growing cold. I thought of Mia upstairs, coloring a picture of a bird, her small voice humming. I thought of Henry, his steady presence guiding me. And I knew, deep down, I'd made the right choice. Mia's laughter filled my house that week. A sound I hadn't realized I'd missed. We baked cookies together, her fingers sticky with dough, her giggles echoing in the kitchen. I took her to the library, where she picked out a book about birds, her eyes bright with curiosity. Each smile, each question, was a step toward her and for me. But Nathan's threat lingered. I knew he wouldn't let go easily. Not the money, not the house, not his pride. And Vanessa. She was too clever to stay quiet. I braced myself for what was coming, but for now, I focused on Mia. She was my light, my reason, and I'd do whatever it took to keep her safe. A year has passed since Mia's small suitcase sat in my hallway. her wide eyes taking in the room I'd prepared for her. My house, once so quiet it echoed with memories of Henry, now hums with life. Mornings start with Mia's chatter, her little voice telling me about a dream she had or a bird she saw in the garden. I wake to the clink of her spoon in a cereal bowl, her attempt to surprise me with breakfast. It's messy, sometimes sticky, but it's the sweetest sound I've ever heard. Mia's changed in ways I couldn't have imagined. The frightened girl who flinched at loud voices is gone. In her place is an 80-year-old who laughs freely, who runs through my backyard chasing butterflies, who fills her sketchbook with drawings of birds and trees. Her art teacher, Miss Emily, says she's a natural, her pencil capturing details most kids her age miss. At school, her grades shine, and her teacher tells me she's raising her hand more, sharing stories in class. She's blooming, Eleanor, the teacher said at our last conference. And I see it every day, her light, her joy, spilling out like sunlight through a window. But the road here wasn't smooth. Nathan's visits were rocky at first. He'd come every other weekend, bringing gifts that didn't fit Mia, sparkly dress too fancy for her, a doll she never touched. "Thank you, Daddy," she'd say, politely, but her eyes would drift to her sketchbook, her real love. Vanessa came less often, her smiles strained, her eyes scanning my house like she was prizing it. I heard whispers of trouble between her and Nathan, arguments over money, over Lucas and Isabel, over the house they'd lost. By spring, Vanessa had moved to Cleveland with her kids, leaving Nathan alone in a small apartment. Nathan's anger at me lingered. He never contested the will, despite his threats, but his visits grew shorter, his words clipped. "You're turning her against me," he said once, watching Mia draw at the kitchen table. "She's finding herself, Nathan," I said softly. "You could be part of that. Ask her what she loves. Spend time with her." He'd nod, but I could see the distance in his eyes. Mia noticed it too. One night, as we sat on the porch, her fingers tracing the butterfly bookmark I'd given her, she looked up at me. "Grandma, does Daddy love me?" My heart broke, but I kept my voice steady. "He does, sweetheart. He's just lost right now. Sometimes grown-ups need time to find their way." She nodded, her small face thoughtful. "I'm glad I'm with you," she said, leaning against me. "You make me feel wanted." I hugged her tight, blinking back tears. "You're more than wanted, Mia. You're my treasure." Last summer, I decided we needed a change, something to mark our new beginning. "How about a trip?" I asked over breakfast, pouring her orange juice. Her eyes lit up. "A real trip, where, anywhere," I said, smiling. "San Diego's got a zoo with pandas. Or we could go to New York, see the museums. What do you think?" "San Diego," she said, bouncing in her chair. "I want to see the elephants, and draw them." We spent weeks planning, Mia poring over library books about animals, her sketchbook filling with practice drawings. The trip was magic, her gasp at the giraffes, her giggles as we ate ice cream by the seal pool, her pencil flying as she sketched an elephant's wrinkled trunk. Watching her, so alive, I felt Henry's presence, his voice warm in my heart. "You did good, Eleanor." Back home, I sat in the garden one evening, the air soft with the scent of blooming lilacs. Mia was asleep upstairs, her sketchbook open on her desk. I looked at the stars, the same ones Henry and I used to watch, and whispered to him, "We made it, love. She's safe. She's happy." The breeze rustled the leaves, and I smiled, feeling his answer in the quiet. Nathan moved to Chicago a few months ago, chasing a new job at a car dealership. He calls Mia sometimes, short conversations that leave her quiet. He sent a package for her birthday, a tablet she barely uses, preferring her pencils and paper. "He doesn't know me," she said once, her voice small but not sad. "She's learning to accept him as he is, and it breaks my heart. But it's her strength that keeps me going." I think about Nathan often. My boy who loved stories, who's lost in a life I can't fix. I love him, always will, but love doesn't mean ignoring truth. He made choices forging my signature, neglecting Mia, prioritizing Vanessa's kids. Those choices cost him, and they cost us. But they gave me Mia, and for that, I'm grateful. Looking back, I see how easy it was to stay blind, to keep paying the mortgage, to hope things would get better. But hope alone doesn't heal. It takes courage to see what's wrong, to draw a line, to fight for someone who can't fight for themselves. I learned that at 64, when I thought my biggest battles were behind me. To anyone listening, here's what I've come to know. Love isn't just giving everything you have. It's knowing when to stop, when to say no, when to stand tall for what's right. It's not about saving everyone, it's about saving the ones who need it most. For me, that was MIA. And in saving her, I found a piece of myself I'd lost. Along the way, Mia's laughter drifts from her room now, a soft giggle as she reads before bed. Tomorrow, we'll plant flowers in the garden, her small hands digging beside mine. Summer's coming, with more trips, more sketches, more moments to hold close. Life's moving forward, and for the first time in years, I'm not looking back. Mia's my home now, my light, and as Henry would say, we're doing just fine.